introduce our next speaker, Maryam Arshad. Maryam is a dear friend of mine. I am not sure, Maryam, I cannot see your screen somehow.
Can you see me?
Yes, I can see you. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam, Ramla. So happy to be here.
So happy to have you. So happy to have you. Maryam, I know that, mashallah, your profile is so star-studded. If I start talking about it, I am not going to stop. So I want you to introduce yourself, and I beseech you to not be humble, please. I know you usually are, but I want you to really talk about every star on your shoulder here, because everyone is worth it.
Thank you so much, Ramla. I think, and a very good afternoon to everyone. I'll try not to be very humble about it, but I mean, here is what it is. I have been a community builder, and when I say a community builder, I have been working with entrepreneurs since the past 10 years now. It's been a decade. I feel old. And it all started when I was in 8th grade. And my session revolves around creating and fostering an entrepreneurial mindset. So I think it's very relevant that I speak about my journey and I link it to an entrepreneurial mindset. I was in 8th grade and I remember walking up to my parents and telling them that I want to be, I don't want to be a doctor, but I want to pursue a career in business. And I want to be a businesswoman. I don't know what career, what enterprise I would have, or what micro enterprise at that point in time. I was too young to understand that. And there were no incubation centers. This is a long time back. So if Ramla is 30, I am 34. So, you can imagine how that's like a very long time back. So nobody took me seriously. But in A-levels, halfway down my A-levels, I was so persistent and I was so focused. I knew what I wanted to do. I scored really well in my sciences. But halfway down my A-levels, I switched. One day walked, told my father, who was watching a cricket match, and I still remember it was a Pakistan-India match. And I said, I'm not going to school tomorrow if I have to study biology, chemistry, and physics, because that's not what I want to do. I want to have a career in business. And he was shocked, he was shook, surprised, all are the right words for it. But that was the best decision of my life. I landed in some great universities, what could have been done in 2 years because I had the right aptitude towards it. I did that in 1 year. And then many great things happened. As a student, since what I was very passionate about, I went to Oxford University for a Young Leaders Conference, came back, shared the same. I've been a TEDx speaker on dreamers, shapers, doers, wanting everybody to believe in the idea and the fact that we all are doers and we all can shape our dreams into reality. Nothing is impossible. And no matter how cliche it might sound, it's very true. Anything and everything can be attained in life. Well, the path might not be easy and there might be many detours, which is always the case, but that's okay. That's part and parcel of life. Other than that, I've been on television, anything that you can imagine, all right? I've been on television as a student. I used to host a live TV show for 2 good years for a private channel. I was asked by PTV to do current affairs, so I did that. I guest hosted 2 shows for them. I've been asked.
We have a celebrity in our midst today. I kid you not. Sorry to interrupt, but that just had to be said here. Go ahead, Maria.
That's very kind of you, Ramla. I was asked by 2 political parties to join in, one of them as an MPA. I did not, because I did not want to deviate from what I really wanted to do and I was really passionate about. So as soon as I graduated from university, and all of this is like before university, as soon as I graduated, I started representing my family enterprise in the Women Chamber of Commerce, and they saw my enthusiasm and they asked me to deputy chair, as a youth forum's chairperson. I did the same. I made sure that we Peshawar, hailing from Peshawar and KP, we have some representation of Google. And I'm sure there was some representation of Google back then. This is 2012, 2013 in Pakistan. But I invited Badr Kushnoor. I had no personal contact. I did not know him. So I Googled, him up. I did not even use social media, no Facebook. I Googled him up. I got his number. from the internet. I gave him a call and I said, you have to visit Peshawar and you have to run a training program here. So many great things started happening. I have been part of Google Business Group as one of their managers, one of the leads since the past 7 years. I've been acquainted. I've deputy chaired a business school. Ramla, do you really want me to talk about this?
Yes,
I don't want
yes.
to drag.
Come on, what you talking about? Look, I want everyone here to know that that is how you pitch yourself. That is how you talk about, because each one of these people who've joined in, each one of them have a stellar future because they've made it so far and they are amazing, stellar people. So they need to know that when they reach to this level, they should be able to be so comfortable in their skin that they can sit and talk about their achievement, because this didn't come easy, Mariam. It's the tip of the iceberg. It came with this whole bunch of failures as well, right? So I think you really need to talk about it, and to talk about it with pride and, with your chin up. So yes, please go for it.
Thank you. So basically, when I started my career, that was a side hustle, being in the Chamber of Commerce, Google Business Group. What I'm trying to make you all understand is that, when you're passionate about something, you use the formal channels, which could be through earning money and supporting yourself, because that is very important, right? And the informal channels where you're giving back to the community. Hence, I call myself a community builder. I've been doing it through so many channels. So the Chamber of Commerce was one, GBG has been one of them. Other than that, so many other ways, panel discussions, hosting boot camps, many of them on a volunteer basis initially. Academia is something I started off with in terms of, if you talk about how I was earning money, I was deputy chairing a business school as well at a very young age. Somebody who recently graduated from university. I was heading marketing and industrial linkages. Later on, for the same university, I was deputy chairing the business school. But because of my passion for helping entrepreneurs, and I had been doing it at so many levels, I was actually asked to join the National Incubation Center, Islamabad. I've been part of the founding team, and I laid the initial SOPs as far as the community guidelines were concerned. And I've worked with so many startups from the tech sector, also from the non-tech sector, and now speaking from a general perspective, not just from Islamabad, but also Peshawar, Lahore, Karachi, and I've been running workshops for NIC Karachi, Peshawar, Islamabad. And that is because I was very passionate about it. But Ramla, like taking a step back, I want everybody to understand that, if you do not want to be an entrepreneur. And then I started off with my own consultancy. Oh God, how can I forget? I mean, I'm here today because of Impact Dynamics. It's my baby. After all of this 7 years of struggle, I realized it's time that I start my own consultancy, my own enterprise. And what we do is we customize entrepreneurial curriculum for incubation centers, for accelerators, and we also run workshops, which are not the usual workshops. We started with empathy at workplaces, Ramla, something very dear to my heart. And then we went on to doing another very interesting boot camp by the name of Film Lab, how we showed brands, we showed SMEs and micro enterprises how it is the story that sells and not just the brand, behind the story. So, and I think it's been a beautiful journey so far. So when we speak of the entrepreneurial mindset, I want everybody to understand that you don't have to have or possess an entrepreneurial mindset only if you want to be an entrepreneur. There's so many engineers over here with us today. I'm sure many of you might want to start off with your own consultancies probably, or even you might want to engage with people in terms of, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You can ask me questions in the chat. Yes. Or you might want to do something, that is in relation to a job that you want to pursue in some great MNC for that matter. It could be a national corporation, an international company. I'm going to throw another jargon over here, but I'll be happy to explain that. There's an entrepreneurial skill set. Skills are something that can be acquired, and something that is very important, a set that I'm going to mention right now, I think creativity, I think anyone and everyone is creative. Creativity is not just about a nice sketch or singing well or a great artwork. It's just how you think. It's the entire process. It's creativity. And I think design thinking really helps you enable to delve deeper into the concept of creativity. Then critical thinking, extremely important. And there's so many exercises that you can do with yourself or with a bunch of friends and peers to enable critical thinking in your work, even in your life for that matter, while making decisions, problem solving for that matter as well. And good communication. Good communication is key. And for me, good communication, the definition of good communication is that it should be as stimulating as good chai and as hard to sleep after that, after that cup of tea. So that is the definition of good communication. All of these skills basically are the tools of having a great entrepreneurial skill set. I would highly encourage anyone and everyone, all the engineers over here, to actually Google them up. There's so many courses available on Harvard has courses, the edX courses, other universities have online free courses, and these are skills that can be learned. And some of the skills are innate. What we need to understand, for example, empathy, but they need to be polished. They need to be they need to be buffed for that matter. So one is that. The other thing that I was speaking of earlier is the entrepreneurial mindset. And it is so important to possess an entrepreneurial mindset, and how that differs basically from an entrepreneurial skill set is that, you basically, you're trying to be, as a Pakistani community, we have a problem of being very risk averse. We are scared of taking risks, and I strongly believe, I know almost all of you are you all are in fact, universities right now. But, if you have younger siblings at home, please do encourage them to think differently. I mean, if the painting, if it's an art class, let's assume the sky can be pink, the sky can be green, the sky can be orange. Why not? Right? So we're so used to taking little risk in our work that because it's the safer option. Why I'm trying to make you understand this is because the entire entrepreneurial mindset is a process. The first step is ideation. You have a great idea. So somebody who is even doing a job, in your particular role, you could come up with different option A, option B, option C, which can also be derived from design thinking at that point in time. But that is the brilliant start towards ideation, right? So you start with ideation, and then you do the prototyping. If it's not necessary that it has to be like a hardware that you have to prototype. It could be just you assuming, for example, for people, since I can give a better example, since I have a marketing background. If you're like packaging for milk carton, let's assume, right? So you can think of different ways you could do it. Like, I really like how Levi focused on the re-engineered jeans. Now that was a great prototype, and it sold really well in the market. I really like how Heinz designed the invertible ketchup bottle, So a great, a great re-engineered design, a great prototype. So no matter what, what exactly you're working on, prototyping comes as a second thing. And then the right market research. And, like, for example, if let's assume you're working, you are an engineer and you're working in a steel mill, and you could think about the thickness of the steel, the quality of the steel, do the market research if this particular quality is doing well in the market, or you need to iterate. So do your market research, right? And in the market research process, you might understand if you need to shelf your idea. That is, it should not go ahead because it will be a fail, because there's limited demand for it, let's assume. Or it would be a hit, then you can go ahead with it. And when you go ahead with it, then launching the product in the market. So the entire process of from ideation, moving towards prototyping, to the market research, and then launching the product in the market, this is this entire process is basically called enabling yourself to have an entrepreneurial mindset, even if you are on a job, even if you are a team lead, even if you plan on working for an MNC, or of course, if you intend on having your own startup centered around things that you want to do. This is the entire process that you will go through. And what really happens to you in the process is that आपकी अच्छी खासी खिंचाई होती है. It's it's never easy, even if you're doing a job. But being an entrepreneur, it has its own perks. But there's a downside to it, and that is that there's a lot of there's a lot of there's a lot of knowledge that you gain in the process regarding the market. A lot of skills that you learn. So you cannot just be specialized in marketing, let's assume. Even as an engineer, you will have an insight of how business development happens. You will have an understanding of how you could do the thing in a better way, and that will happen right at the ideation phase. You will get a better understanding of design thinking, the entire process, and what sells in the market, demand. So there's so many things that you learn in the process. And people who possess an entrepreneurial mindset research shows and studies show that they do really, really well in their jobs as well. Many of the women who make it to, although it's very hard for women to make it to the top. There's so many factors around that. And I love to speak to all of them about it at some other point in time. But people who make it to the board, people who make it to being a vice president of a telco. There's so many women now, even in Pakistan, working at these positions. It's because they think differently and they act differently. And they act differently because they have an entrepreneurial mindset in place. And it makes a huge difference. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Maryam. And when you were talking, I was thinking, well, that was kind of what I had to do for my PhD, right? Even though I wasn't running it. It was a personal war that I had undertook, but all of this was so important. I had to ideate, I had to prototype that idea, but my prototypes were experiments, right? Some of those completely fizzled out because they were utter and complete failures. Others weren't that much. So I had to go through this repetitive cycle. So I think I can relate to what you're talking about, because it's not necessarily something that you run a business with, but it's absolutely crucial to have a mindset no matter what field in life you're about to. So I want to sort of open the floor for a very informal conversation here, because I know a lot of people are going through final year projects, applying for jobs. How do you think an entrepreneurial mindset can help you progress? And we have the subject matter expert with us right here. So this is your prime time to ask questions and discuss. Over to you all. Any questions, comments? Yamna from University of Peshawar, if you're here, I'd like you to introduce yourself to Maryam.
But Ramla, I'll be happy to take in questions. I leave my email over here as well. They can always reach out to me. I know I don't have an engineering background, but as far as creating or fostering entrepreneurial mindset is concerned, I will be more than happy. Yamna said, "Hi, Maryam. It's so nice to see you." Hi, Yamna. I can't see you, but glad to meet you. So, I'll be very happy to take in all these questions. But Kash, would you like to speak because you've unmuted yourself?
Assalamu alaikum, ma'am.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Ma'am, before asking my question, I would like to thank you for being a very important personality in my student life, because I would like to tell you that one of your career counseling sessions at Base Camp Peshawar helped me a lot, in gaining confidence to choose the career that I wanted in life. And then I followed you up to your events at NIC Peshawar, and there you talk about the art of selling and complicated terms like that. I was a student of 10th and I didn't understood what you were talking about, but I was really inspired from you. So I looked up to you, and I looked for you on LinkedIn, and I followed so many Maryam Arshads, and they were not you actually. So
Are you
I,
serious? Okay. I'll be very happy to share my LinkedIn, Kashyap. Just give me a second. I'm opening it. It's
sure,
Maryam
ma'am.
Arshad. So probably if you type Maryam Arshad Mahmood, it would pop up. But it's opening right now, and I'll gladly share it for anyone, in fact, who would like to connect. Because also, Ramla, LinkedIn is so important. Like I know it's very stressful when a lot of people are posting things on LinkedIn. For all of you, it puts you under pressure, and I understand that. Even it puts us under pressure because when I look at another enterprise, I'm like, oh, they're performing so well, and like. But let me tell you all one thing, including Kash, never ever compare your achievements or where you are in life to anybody else, because everybody has their own individual journey. As long as you're doing well, you know what you're geared towards, that's all that counts. Yeah, and that's all that matters. I'm trying to open it, just a second. I don't know what's with the internet.
That's okay, Mariam. You could sort of leave it in the chat later on as well. Kash, did you, I believe you have a question as well?
Yes, ma'am. So my
Yeah.
question is that basically I'm a science student. I am personally interested in physics, like really interested in physics. I don't want to leave that career, but parallel to this, I'm also inspired by the entrepreneurial mindset, and what Ma'am Mariam talks about is really interesting to me. I want to bridge these two fields. I want to be a kind of scientific entrepreneur, but I don't know how do these two things comes up together. I just can't find the connection.
Okay, all right. That's a very nice question, Kash, because it will remove a lot of misconceptions from the mind of so many people. आपका चाहे जो भी profession हो, be it a doctor, a lawyer, a scientist, an engineer, you can be an entrepreneur. It's as simple as that. You don't need to have a business degree to be an entrepreneur. पहली बात तो ये है. It's a myth, and yeah, hence it's wrong. So it's not true. You don't have to possess a business degree, or you don't have to be a business graduate to be an entrepreneur. How can you bridge the gap? So I don't know if you've been to Peshawar 2.0. You might know of Dr. Faisal, and I would like to quote Dr. Faisal over here from Peshawar 2.0, because he has a degree in microbiology. Like, he's like a doctor. And he started, right now what he's working on, Ramla, and for everybody else to understand, they're working on, so they've set up the first precision medicine lab in Pakistan. They got the funding from HSC, and RMI is a big hospital in Peshawar. They're partners. And when I say the first, I really mean that even Aga Khan does not have that facility. They're working on like the genome of how to remove cancer, how does cancer multiply. Very interesting research. I mean, I was blown away. And I have nothing with a business degree. I don't have any direct work to do with them, right? But Dr. Faisal and I, we keep in touch. Like, I was asking him if I could get myself involved, because hackathons are something that I could arrange, right? And then I might do podcasts for them, something like that, which is related to my field. So even as an engineer, there's so many ventures, I would say. There's so many startups. I know even housed at the National Incubation Center, Peshawar, and elsewhere, that required an engineering degree. There was this one startup, and I think the person, there's an engineering specialization, I forgot. People who specialize in different kind of substances. I don't know what it's called, chemicals, I guess. So they created this kind of coating, which would, I don't know, it would absorb shock or something. So, there was a startup based out on that. So, I mean, the different kind of startups, right? And different startups have different requirements. Dr. Faisal is working on Precision Medicine Lab, which is another interesting venture. It could work, it could not work. It has a lot of monetary investment involved in it. So I would call that a startup as well. Like Peshawar 2.0 was a startup. So Kash, you can look out for startups which are in relation to your field, and you can work with them in order to gain a flavor of how it is in a startup life, and then you can start something of your own, because it will take you time to understand what you really want to do, because you have to identify something which might come as a problem, or which is not being done well in the market, and then you might design a solution to that. Right?
Exactly. I think that's very valuable advice. So not everyone has a brilliant idea, or they aren't, because ideas are a dime a dozen, right? Maryam, you always say that. So many people are not able to bring their idea to fruition. But even if that's the case, just attach yourself to another startup. Get the experience of that process, that mindset of thinking and rethinking and repicking yourself after the idea collapses out, right? So it's a process of rebuilding, I believe. If there are any other questions.
I have a question. Yes.
Yes, Hadia.
Assalamu alaikum, Maryam. I hope you're doing well. First of all, it was so overwhelming and so good to hear from you. I have a question. I'll just jump into it. Basically, I'm doing geoinformatics engineering. It's related to like geography and remote sensing. Na? So I'm very interested in geo-marketing intelligence field, and this is the field which is not saturated in Pakistan. You can say it's very there's not like that much in working in Pakistan. It's just in one liner. It is like you can do the marketing on the basis of like a GIS related fields and remote sensing and stuff. So what do you see in this regard? What's the future, or what's the scope of this in the marketing field?
I'm sorry,
I'm very interested in this, and I want to make my final year project in this as well.
Hadia, your voice was it was breaking. If I would really appreciate if you could.
Audible now?
You are audible, but it's.
Am I audible?
Okay. Yeah, I believe it's better if you could type it out. That way, it just comes in one go rather than having to repeat yourself.
Exactly. So I would really appreciate that, and I'll be happy to answer your question.
Maryam, in the meanwhile, I believe Kashyap Abdullah has a question for you. Kashyap, if you're listening, go ahead.
Yes. So, hi, nice to meet everyone. Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically, like the concept of women with money, it's like really rare. It's like how we see in Pakistan, especially. So, for example, like when I did my O levels, so I took commerce alongside with my sciences and other subjects. So that's when I got to know what capital is, what investment is, what property is. But like when I see, for example, I myself am a women network head, so I have to motivate women to have entrepreneur skills, to get into marketing and all. So it's really hard to get the concept across of entrepreneurship of money alone. So how to deal with this, the concept of women with money?
Okay, thank you. That's a great question. Firstly, when women or no women, money in a startup is not promised initially. So you need to be very hardwired as a person, hardwired to believe as a person that anything can happen. We can either go big or, lose it completely. So money is not promised to begin with if you have a startup, because we're speaking of an entrepreneurial, if you are on an entrepreneurial journey as a startup. And also on the other hand, if you want to possess an entrepreneurial mindset, because things can work, things cannot work. But what happens in the process, Kashyap, and something that you should let others know in your circle as well, is that you find when you fail, that is, and failing should be normalized. We take pride in doing well. I'll be very honest with you. COVID has been super hard on us. I have changed my company's business model. I haven't announced it as we speak, because everybody in Pakistan is like Maryam, inviting me to left and right, and like, oh wow, this and that. Nobody knows what's happening inside, right? And I am like it's a struggle. And I mean, Ramla knows, because mashallah, she's doing really well, but it's not easy. Doing well is not easy. So if you think I earned a lot in COVID, no. If you think I had to restructure my organization, yes. I mean, there were paid employees, they still are. but the model is being changed. So what I'm trying to say over here is that it's not good to be risk averse. It's not at all good to be risk averse, because when I do something wrong and I fail, by the way, there's nothing wrong that you do. You're doing it right because you find out what is not working. When you fail, you will find out what is not right, and you will not repeat that, and you will adopt another path. And eventually you'll find a better way of doing that particular thing if you are on a job, or if you, if you want to have your own startup. And many a times, it's not necessary that your startup will take flight with your current idea. You might have to pivot, and that's okay. That is, change the path slightly to see kahan pe aapko profit aa raha hai, and do it accordingly. Another thing, Ramla, I mean, I'll be very happy if, and something that women need to learn is finances. You have to be financially independent. It is so important for women to be financially independent. To manage your budget, and also to look at your numbers, for the rainy days, for other things as well. I mean, professionally ke alawa, even personally. So, and how can this happen is having this conversation with your peers, not just in offices, but even informally, when you're talking to your mother. I would encourage the idea of committee parties where, if you have to pool in money, why not? You're saving money,
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
yeah.
No, I read this research recently that Pakistan lags behind almost every other country in the world with women having their own bank accounts, because that means that they are dependent on even, rickshaw money on somebody else. So that inhibits a lot of this conversation towards empowerment and education that we're talking about. Let's do a quick poll here, by the way. How many of you have your own bank accounts? Just write that in the chat. With that, our next speaker, Maryam, is waiting, but I have to tell you, every time I have you on board, I learn something new. Mashallah, you're one of the most inspiring people that I know, and I hope to get you back involved within WEP. So I know that everyone has tons of questions. Should you have some time, I believe there are a couple of questions for you in the chat. If you have some time, please do go through